Sorting a hash map by keys. First, create a hash map instance and add some key value pairs to it. Create instance of tree map, that is sorted map here. Tree map provides a sorted collection of key value pairs, ordered by the key's natural ordering. In this example, constructor of tree map initializes the entries from the hash map, and automatically sorting them by their key. Then to print the sorted hash map, first declare a variable, entry, of type map.entry. Sorted map.entrySet specifies the collection to iterate over, and returns a set view of the tree map entries. Entry.getKey method retrieves the key from the current map.entry object. Entry.getValue method retrieves the value associated with the key in the current map.entry object. Now execute the code and check the output. Sorting a hash map by values. First, create a hash map instance and add some key value pairs to it. Convert the hash map entries into a list by creating an array list containing all the entries of the hash map. Then sort the list of map.entry objects in ascending order based on their values using the comparing by value comparator. Next, create a linked hash map to preserve the sorted order of entries from the list. By iterating over the sorted list and inserting each entry into the linked hash map, it maintains the order in which entries were added. Now, iterate over the entries of the linked hash map and prints each key value pair. Execute the code and check the output. Convert int array to an integer array. Let us see an example. First, we declare and initialize an int array with some values. To convert int array to integer array, let us use arrays.stream, which creates a stream of int elements. .boxed method converts each int element to an integer object, resulting in a stream of integer objects. .toArray integer, new, collects the integer objects into a new integer array. In this example, after converting into an integer array, arrays.sort, integer array, collections.reverse order, method sorts the integer array in descending order. And then print each element using a for loop. What is method reference? Method references provide an easy-to-read alternative to Lambda expressions for methods that already have a name. Here we have few examples for Lambda expressions and equivalent method references for each. There are 4 types of method references. First one is reference to static method. Syntax, containing class : static method name, and check the example. Next, reference to an instance method of a particular object. Syntax, containing object : instance method name. Third one is reference to an instance method of an arbitrary object. Syntax, containing type : method name. Fourth one is reference to constructor. Syntax, class name : new. Collections versus stream. Collections stores elements and manage groups of objects. It is generally mutable, thus allows adding, removing, and updating elements. With collections we can have explicit iteration using loops and can be reused. It may involve complex time-consuming operations due to manual control and performs basic CRUD operations. Where streams does not store elements but process sequences of elements. It is generally immutable and do not modify the source. With streams we can have implicit iteration using functional operations like map, filter, etc. Once consumed, a stream cannot be used again. It can leverage optimizations like lazy evaluation and parallel processing, and performs various functional operations. Streams will end the stream pipeline, produces a result and return a new stream. Enum class. It provides a collection of named constants. Can have methods and constructors associated with them. Allows to define custom behavior for the constants. In enum class, constants are written in uppercase letters for better readability. And we can iterate over all the constants using a for loop. How will you define a enum class in Java? Here is an example. Color represents name of the enum class. Red, green, and blue are constants defined within the color enum class. To iterate over each constant, use a for loop. Color declares a loop variable named color of type color. Color.values calls the values method of the color enum class and returns an array containing all the constants defined within that enum class. Execute the code and check the output. Enum class to select a browser. Here we have an enum class called browser, with two enum constants Chrome and Firefox, and their corresponding values. Also, we have an instance variable called name, which stores the values corresponding to each enum constant. The enum constructor is responsible for initializing the name attribute of each enum constant. The getName method will return the name attribute when it is called. Then we have main method. The line browser equals browser.chrome creates a variable named browser of type browser and assigns it with the value as Chrome. Now let us execute the code and check the output. Serialization. Plain old Java object to JSON. To serialize a POJO to JSON, use a library like gsan or Jackson. Here we have a class employee with instance variables, name, location, department, and employee ID, along with getter and setter methods for each variable. Serialize employee object to JSON using gsan library. Set properties using setter methods on employee object. Create a gsan object. Then call its to JSON method with the POJO as an argument to get the JSON representation. That will convert emp object to JSON string. Next, use Jackson library. Create object mapper with Pretty Printer. Enable indentation for Pretty Printing. Create object writer with default Pretty Printer. Serialize emp object to JSON with Pretty Printing. This code achieves the same result as before but with a clearer structure. Deserialization. JSON to plain old Java object. To deserialize a JSON to POJO, use a library like gsan or Jackson. Here we have a class employee with instance variables, name, location, department, and employee ID, along with getter and setter methods for each variable. Let us see deserialization using gsan library. In this example, JSON data is the name of the variable, and it is of type string. Then we create a gsan instance and use from JSON method of gsan to deserialize the JSON data into an employee object. Now JSON data is converted into Java object. This is deserialization. So we can retrieve and print the attributes like name, location, department, and employee ID using getter methods of POJO class. Deserialization. JSON to plain old Java object. To deserialize a JSON to POJO, use a library like gsan or Jackson. Here we have a class employee with instance variables, name, location, department, and employee ID, along with getter and setter methods for each variable. Deserialization using Jackson library. Let us see an example. In this example, JSON data is the name of the variable, and it is of type string. Then we create an object mapper instance and use read value method of object mapper to deserialize the JSON data into an employee object. Now JSON data is converted into Java object. This is deserialization. So we can retrieve and print the attributes like name, location, department, and employee ID using getter methods of POJO class. Maven commands. MVN compile compiles the source code of the project. MVN test compile compiles the test source code. MVN package creates a jar or WAR file for the project, converting it into a distributable format. MVN install compiles the code, runs tests, packages the application, and installs it into the local repository. MVN clean deletes the target directory, Cleaning the project build environment. MVN test compiles the code and runs the tests in the project without packaging the code. MVN verify runs any checks on the results of integration tests to ensure they meet quality standards. MVN validate the project's POM and configuration.